Start. Cast tutorial number 6, Dem Bones. Yes, I did it. Now, before I start, I'm going to bring up a issue here. I was one of those people that did not want to lose the traditional animation of paint and ink and paper. But then, as I was growing up, I learned that paper comes from trees. You know that saying that money does not grow on trees? Well, paper does grow on trees, because you cut the trees down to make the paper. Or sometimes to strip the bark, however way you make the paper. There's also plants that can make the paper, but I'll go into that like never. So, with actually sitting down and animating a full, like, I'm going to say almost a 2-minute clip of animation with paper, that took weeks to do. And then I sit down in front of a computer with the CGI and make a model and realize that you can pull the model into anything and just animate it from there. You don't have to keep redrawing the same freaking character. But on the other side, building it, as you noticed, took hours. And then rendering the whole thing is going to take like days. And on a further note, animation studios have a whole team of people doing multiple different tasks. They have character design, they have the actual building the model, they have people doing the bones, and then they have people weighing those bones to the skin, and then they have separate people doing the animations, and then they have people that take the animation files and plug it into the scenery that other people have done, and it still takes years to produce a full 2-hour movie. So, if you're going to weigh it, it takes pretty much the same length of time to produce, but the upside for CGI is that you don't kill trees. You just kill whatever it is to make the plastic and the circuitry for the computers. On the other hand, you can do practically anything with drawing. I'm using Pokemon as an example because there's this one called Ponyard that was awesome as a drawing. But when they put him into CGI, his little stomach claw blades became flat. Now I know that blades are flat, but this all looks paper flat. Like they cut it out of cardboard and stuck it on him. So, off the tangent, I'm going to teach you about skeletons. Now, these don't produce actual structure to your model. That's what the polygon is. What this does is adds a path to move your model logically. Now, up here we have advanced stuff, like you have the geometry that pulls up the normal objects, and then shapes, lights, cameras, helpers. Helpers is what we need. Now, a lot of people go like, okay, where's my skeletons? Where's my skeletons? Where's my skeletons? We need to pull down the drop-down menu and go to Cat Objects. I have long forgotten what cat stands for. I just pretend that they're objects that cats play with. Alright. Now we have cat parent here. And 3ds Max has a buttload of pre-made skeletal figures. Now this works for if you have like an English dragon. You come over here, you click and you drag to size your model, and it's going crazy. Alright, so as you can tell, I just made a huge friggin' dragon. Now if you notice, it's still got that weird cross arrow. So if you try to like click something, you're going to create another smaller dragon. So left click to cancel. Now, as you can tell, it has the wings for you. And the tail and the head. Everything is done. Delete. Alright. Now they have some other stuff that's pretty cool. I used an ape for one of my models because it pretty much fit the model precisely. Now, the two that you're probably going to be using is base human, which is just a humanoid, a basic humanoid. And there's biped, which is very similar to the human. Now, I've asked people once, what is the difference? All they told me was that this one looks like a skeleton. And it has a human face. I'm like, okay. Okay, I'm just going to run down the basics. With the, you can move the upper arm, and I'll move everything. Click down here, I'll move everything below it. Now, if you're wondering about fingers, that's easily done. Click on the hand. Make sure you click on the hand. Go to the modify. If you notice, number of digits. As you can see, they're really freaking tiny. Just for fun, let's give him 6 digits. Now, if you notice, over here we got the weight. Or not the weight, but the size. Now what's going on is this model is really going crazy. Ignore the fact that it's glitching for some reason. Over here, you can tell it how many different bones it's going to have. Well, that just fixed my problem. So you can move the individual fingers. Do the same with the feet. Give him 7 on this toe. If you notice, it's doing the same thing. I'm pretty sure there's some kind of settings that's going to fix that. But right now, I'm not going to investigate it. But you have to understand the hierarchy. Because for the arms, the top controls the rest of the arm below it. So if you move that, it's going to move like... A lot of times it'll glitch if you mess with the collarbones here. I'm not sure on the details, look it up. The rib cages affects everything above it. The rib cage is connected to the top rib cage or spine, and the collarbones and the neck. So basically just play around, see what different motions you can do. I personally suggest if you're having him rotate his torso, use the chest, because that makes it look a little bit more realistic. If you use the bottom spine, it's going to go like that, which is very not realistic. The waist does the legs. Now, the legs are the tricky part, because sometimes it won't rotate the way you want it to. There are settings you can mess with. I haven't gotten to work. But if you click down here, and I have the foot base selected, not the foot, you can actually have it mimic the leg. So it actually looks like he's walking. If you do it with the foot, it'll just do the bottom leg. Now, I found a huge difference between these two models. First of all, if you notice, if I click on base, by the way, this is the base for the whole model. If you want to move the model, do not just select everything. It works, but in animation, it's not going to work well. The base moves the entire model without glitching the entire animation sequence. Now, over here you have the hierarchy menu. Which again, I have not got to work efficiently yet. That's going to be a different tutorial. And over here you got motion. I'll get into that when I get into animation. But right now I want to show you there's a different way you can do a biped, which actually gives you the animation. Go in here under System, and you click on biped. Got a lot of different options over here, but right now it's all set up to look like him. Now, if you notice, there's one major difference. It does not have the platform here. Instead, it has this little thing I cannot select. Now, click on the torso. Go over here in your motion, and you have a lot of different options here. Like if you notice, I have assign controller, biped apps, biped, track selection, and then a whole bunch of other different options down here. But if you just click over here, you only have your animation windows. So now we do not need these guys. Now, just really quickly, because I'm not showing you animation, I'm showing you bones, but I'm going to show you one major advantage of doing it this way. You got this footstep mode here. Now down here, we got walk, run, jump. Create multiple footsteps, create footsteps at current frame. create footsteps append, which I'm not sure what that does. So if we click here, we got our window popping up. Number of footsteps for per stride width. That means how far he'll step. Actual stride width. Total distance. Auto timing and whatnot. Stats for the first step, last step. So let's just make it 6 to make it interesting. Let's actually give that 1.5. Now if you see, it places footsteps down for you. And right now he's not doing anything. So in order to make him do something, we gotta click over here, by bed playback. And I'm not so sure what's going on. There we go. You have to click on create keys for inactive footsteps. So click on the play animation. You can even move the footsteps a little bit. But if I rotate that, his body's not going to rotate. Anyway, that's just a quick example because, like I said, this is about bone making, not animation. We'll cover footsteps at a lot later date, most likely never. I've worked with the footsteps, I tested them out. I didn't like doing them because they're very finicky about doing more animations after that. I'm going to save this as a new file. Because if you notice, there's no way I can get any skeleton for this bird. So I'm going to hide unselected for now. Make this see-through and freeze it. Okay, again, we need to go to create helpers, cat objects. However, instead of clicking on cat parent, cat muscle. Now it's confusing because we're working with bones. But if you notice over here we have type mesh, bones. I'm a little not sure what mesh does. But down here we have segments, which is like the pieces of the bone. And we have the mirror. Right now, this is going to be the left side. So we need it to be left. You need to go into Systems. Click on Bones. Now, down here, we have a solver, which I don't know what it does. Going to leave it on limb for now. And we have the width and the height and the taper of the bone. We even have fins. Now, I found that fins actually is useful. So now I'm going to start creating my bone for the wing. Which you might want, I'm going to increase the size. Let's do 5. Let's see. Click, and you drag. And apparently my model is a bit big for the bones. I'm going to fix that in a minute. But I want to make sure that they're going to be enough segments so that I can actually manipulate the wings and make it look natural. Oops. Now, I thought there was going to be a way I can resize them without having to do this. So then that happens and it's not. Alright, I'm going to have to, oops, make it much, much bigger. Which means I'm going to have to make this bigger too, so I can actually see the fins. Better, but not quite. Better, much better. Now, it's going to move much like the arm. However, if you try to move it, the whole thing moves. So be careful how you're doing your animations. Now, of course, mirror. And we don't have to worry about normals for this. Now the tip is a bit longer than my model, but what we can do, it's not going to work that way. Now for this, you really want to make sure it's on local. So if you do view, it's just going to mess up your shape massively. Now if you notice the fins, they're pointing inwards, which is alright because all I need it to do is just tell me which side is which. I've had moments where I've rotated my arms in a very unnatural way. So now we're going to need a working mouth. Now if you notice, with my bones I made, my start part is the parent, and the ending is the child. And think about your anatomy. Open your mouth. Which side of your mouth moved? The top or the bottom? You said top, you're an idiot. Alright, so for the head, I'm going to make this a tiny bit smaller. Oh, before I continue, the reason why skeletons have different colors, so you won't get confused. Over here you get this color palette. We'll make this one green. And because I like opposites, I'm going to make this one red. So now I know the right side is red and the left is green. So now I'm going to make the mouth. Now it does not have to be like exactly following the beak. For the mouth, you want one part to be the top part of the beak, another little section for the back part of the mouth so that it stays stationary, and then one more for the bottom part.
Let's make this one purple.
Also might be a good idea to not call it Bone 019. If you notice, I can't rename the bone when I select all of it. I have to go through and literally change the name of every single bone, which I'm going to do later. Now we need a bone for the head. Pop quiz. How many bones are in your skull? Pretty much, not including teeth, 2. Your actual skull part and your mandible. So for this, we just need one freaking huge bone. That'll work. Now if you remember, if I do this, there's going to be a smaller bone right there.
It might have been better if I did the view. Alright. Let's color some orange, so look orange. Skull. Let's just color one minute. Ooh, that one's off center. That's gonna be bad. Alright, that's more center. Just a little bit. Because that head is smaller, I'm gonna have to scale all it. Not in local.
Okay, so why did I have a second bone there? So I'm trying to remember how I can attach the 2 bones. Guess it doesn't actually matter. Oops. But however, nothing can be animated unless you have a base. So, where are we going to get a base from? We go back to helpers. Cat parent. Remember how I showed you all these? If you don't click on anything, if it's on none, if you notice, there's still the little crosshair thing. What? You get to create your own base. It's labeled as character 1. So, rename it to my actual model. I want to make sure it's basically in the middle. I also want to lower it so that it hovers. Now here's the fun part of this. If you notice, in Modify, it has the sections up already. Ah, there we go. you can add all of these, all of your bones to the platform. They're still there. So now, oh shoot, it didn't work the way I wanted it to. Hold up. Alright. I'll create pelvis. And there's my pelvis. Alright, that's a needed bone. I think I'm going to put that in the head. Now if you notice over here we have add leg, which does that. Add arm. Add tail. Add spine. Add bone. Next time I'll show you how to actually combine the bones down with the skin, so that when you move the bones, the skin moves with them. So until then, go look it up on YouTube.